Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my live stream. Today's live stream is going to be interesting. I'm not going to be working on comics yet. I had all the necessary tools show up to get going on the refret for my guitar, so I wanted to work on that for a little bit on this lovely Saturday morning of what will be a 3-day weekend, which I'm really excited about. So that's what we're going to do. So if you guys aren't familiar, a couple episodes back, I started the refurbishing a classic vintage guitar. It's a JOM, JOM. It's a classical guitar with really good wood, and pretty decent build quality that just needed a lot of work. And I got it at a Goodwill for like $6. And on the last episode, what we did was just install new tuners, because that's one of the things that arrived early was new tuners that I had ordered. The old tuners were just torched. And I've mentioned this before. Had that been like a really expensive guitar, I would have been, probably restoring those original tuners. But considering it's a $6 guitar, I was like, I'll just give it tuners that are gold that'll match the brass frets that we're installing. And the reason I'm installing brass frets on it is that the original frets appeared to be brass, or maybe they were just some composite metal plated with brass. But the point being, I ordered some new brass frets because the frets are worn on it. So what we're going to do today is pull the original frets. We're going to radius the neck, which I know is weird because a classical guitar neck technically should be completely flat, traditionally, or maybe a 20-inch radius. But because I'm coming from the perspective of a steel string guitarist, I'm going to do a couple things that are unusual for a classical guitar. Number one, I'm going to radius it at about a 16 radius. So it's got a little more bend to it. It's a little more familiar to a steel string, which is not a wild radius, but it's quite a broad radius for a classical guitar. So that's one thing we're going to be doing on stream. We're going to pull the frets, sand and radius the board. I have inlay dots. On the last stream I showed you guys, I really enjoyed the fact that even though classical guitars don't traditionally have inlays, this had painted on inlays. And I thought that was really nice. They were like these really cool cross patterns. I'll be showing the guitar in a second too. And it dawned on me, like, either I'd have to screen print back those specific patterns, or just go with a traditional classical guitar with a flat neck, or install inlay dots, which I didn't feel prepared to do. Well, guess what? I got the drill bits and I'm going to do inlay dots for the first time. So this could be a complete disaster. I also got side dot material as well. So we're going to put side dots as well on the fretboard. And it's just going to be a fun little mess of a stream. Either I'll be successful and you guys can watch me live while I succeed, or I'm going to fail and you can watch a live failure, which will be fun too. And either way, it's a $6 guitar. So it's, in my opinion, it has way higher value than that, because the wood's really good. You can tell it was pretty well built. Everything's in pretty good condition except for the nut, the tuners, but like the skeleton of it, the structure of it seems to be a really good guitar. We will find out. We will find out if I'm able to do this. So this will be my second time redoing frets on a guitar. It'll be my first time doing inlay dots, and my first time doing side inlay dots, and doing all this on a classical guitar. And I'm so unfamiliar with classical guitars that I'm probably going to have to Google how to string a classical guitar, because I forget. I know there's a loop you have to do at the bottom and a loop you have to do at the top. And then I know as you get to the higher strings, the thinner ones, you have to loop it a couple more times at the bottom. But I don't remember that order because it's been 20 years since I owned or played a classical guitar. But it's going to be an experiment. It'll be fun. And I enjoy working on guitars. It's kind of a hobby I've picked up recently. And I will be working on comics. For those of you who might be curious where I'm at on my graphic novel, Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, that we're doing for Turner Publishing, that I've been working on for a year or more on stream. We're at page 98. So tonight I plan on, or today, maybe this afternoon, I plan on taking photo references for the next page, because we do have roughs for up to page, I think, 101. So progress will continue on that. I also plan on, hopefully this weekend, I really do want to start. I feel so bad that we were going to do this pitch for a new graphic novel, and a lot of things with the new career and all that kind of stuff came up. And so I just haven't had time, but I do think I'll have some time this weekend. So we'll see. Time is weird. Time is valuable and limited. So we'll see what we're able to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the camera from the other thing, and then I'm going to rely on you guys who are in chat to kind of let me know if you can hear me, right? Because I'm going to be in the kitchen and streaming from my laptop. So I think I have everything set up okay, but if you guys have trouble hearing audio or anything like that, let me know. We'll play a quick commercial. I'm going to kick us off with a commercial by Frank Salazar of Salazar Art Nation and Roll for Tarraco. And then we'll get started on this crazy thing. The first thing we're going to do is pull the frets. So I'm going to get my soldering iron. I'm going to get my fret pullers, and we'll try to at least get that done before maybe another break. I'm not sure how far we're going to get on this process today, but it'll be fun to explore it with you and do a little weird side project. And hopefully it keeps you company, especially if you're doing art today. And if you have any questions, especially if you're curious about guitars or anything like that, punch them into the chats. I believe I can read chat from the other camera. And without further ado, let me pull up the view of where I'll be working. The guitar sitting there, ready to rock. And, let me remove it. It's also having slapback. So what we'll do is mute this mic and put on a commercial. I'll see you guys by the guitar in a second.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Krembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
All right, guys. Let me make sure my mic settings set up correctly here. Can you hear me okay? Let's see here. Settings. Audio. Oh, here we go. Should be better. Okay, can you guys hear this okay? It should be better. I just turned it on to where it's the snowball. How's that? Is that better? Corey was saying the mic sounds great. Gary was saying you're a little bit quiet, but okay. Is it better now? Because I switched it to the yeah. So I got this guy. All right, guys. We're hearing a lot of really funny stuff too. Let me move it a little closer so I can see you guys. So we got a couple things going here, and I'll pan down a little bit so you can see the neck of the guitar, which is right here. Believe me, it's trust me. So we got Corey saying Super Bowl bad feedback echo. I think that was from before I muted the mic. Let me know if you're hearing echo now. Frank said 2 stories. That's right. If you guys enjoy this content, one thing you can do right now is hit like. That's free. That doesn't cost anything. But if you haven't picked up 2 Stories or Jacob's Apartment and you're subscribed to my channel, what are you doing? All right. Gary asked about the ancient scrolls in the background on the china cabinet. No, that would be cool. I should just kind of play it off like that. But no, those are that's like paper that my son uses to paint on. And so we have scrolls of his paintings behind us. So technically it's ancient scrolls. They're, some of them are like a year old or so. Let's see. Gary said a lot of people assume Frank is doing a voice in that commercial. In fact, that's his everyday voice. I love it. And then let's see here. Frank was saying, who is Joshua Kemble on the next Francaldo Rivera? Nice. Okay, so you guys, I have a soldering iron heating up. So we're going to move this down so you can see. This is the neck. So what we're going to do on this neck of this guitar, we've already pulled the nut off. You're going to notice this is very flat. Like, in fact, let's just put a fret rocker so you can kind of see it. If I put a fret rocker on there, it literally sits flush. So there's no radius, which means the rounded edge of this on this neck whatsoever. So if I wanted to play it safe, I'd just flat sand. But we're not playing it safe. We're experimenting and learning. So I'm going to add a radius, a 16-inch radius to this neck. But the first thing we got to do is get rid of these torched frets. And then we're going to install some new frets, which I ordered. So I have new frets with me. And we have a hot soldering iron in the corner over here that's getting ready for action. Yeah. Corey was saying my sister-in-law just said, "Your mom's getting ready for action" in the corner. That's so funny. Okay. Okay. Let's see what else. Frank said it's ancient recipes. I love that. So let's get into it. So what we have to do is I have this boiling hot soldering iron. This is like begging for a YouTube failure. And it's plugged in. So, I mean, it's already discoloring. We're going to heat up the frets, right? I'm going to heat up the fret without touching the board, trying not to touch the board. And what that does is loosen the glue on the fret, allowing me to use this guy, this fret puller that's flat on the edge, to gradually pull up the fret. So that's what we're going to try to do. And we're going to try to do it while live streaming, which could be a beast of a thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just touch the fret. And we're just going across. What we're doing is just heating it up. And I'm going to do one more pass just to get it nice and hot. Then I'm going to very carefully put this down so that I don't light my house on fire. That would be good. And then we're going to go. We want to go relatively quickly. And we'll see if this goes as easy as the last one, because these frets are a little more flush to the board because they've been worn a lot more than the previous time. And it can take a couple minutes to kind of get it to give. Whew. Okay, we got to heat it one more time. Oh. So again, sometimes they come up real easy. Sometimes they don't. Okay. Let's go. Try to get in there. Oh, getting a little action. Getting a little give. Oh, boom. We got one fret out. And it's hard for you guys to see, but it's with limited damage to the fretboard. There's a little bit of chipping though, but a lot of that'll go away with a little bit of time. Gary was saying, just why do they have to come off? Because these frets are probably about 40 years old, and so they're worn to where they're too close to the board. And what that does is destabilize the tuning on the guitar. And so also because I want to radius the fretboard, these aren't radius frets, so either way I'd have to remove the frets. It's the easiest way to clean the board and get rid of imperfections and get it nice and even again. And then the last thing is I want to install inlay dots that aren't screen printed on there, that are actual ivory inlay dots. Something just fell. Let me go see what that was. Oh, I think it was just a bag or something. So I want to install inlay dots and side dots, and for that I have to remove the frets as well. Corey got it. As usual, Corey said it better than me. He said sometimes frets are so trashed and lowered too much that they're beyond repair. If they don't have a specific height, then you can get buzzing with frets at different heights. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I want to level the frets. And do a better fret job on this guitar. So again, our first part was fixing these tuners, the tuning pegs. The next is to fix the frets. And I'm in a radius. This is like, if you talk to a person who's like a classical musician, what I'm doing is heresy, is radiusing a classical guitar. because classical guitars traditionally should be flat, but I'm a steel guitarist who wants the nylon string sound, so that's what we're going to do. All right, we got 1 fret down. That actually wasn't too bad, right? Okay, this is getting hot. Getting kind of hot. Let's see here. Okay. Let's do another with the soldering iron. And as you're doing this, you might notice a little bit of like smoke because it's heating up the fret. And so that can heat up the wood a little bit. But ideally, hopefully you're not going to see too much. If you try this without heating, you'll rip apart the fretboard, which is not what you want to do. Start with the ends here. Oh. Man. Those ends don't want to come. There we go. We got some give. And it's a little resistant on this end, so I'm going to go ahead and heat that little end. Just because I think some glue might be sticking to it. Let's get some heat through that metal. And what we're trying to do is loosen the glue. There we go. Boom. Pops out instantly. And again, they cool off pretty quick, so I don't feel too worried about it. So there's fret number 2. If you were curious why I'm replacing the frets, you can see the condition these were in. They're like torched, you know? I also got this a couple nice new tools for this, so I'm pretty excited. I can't see how many people are logged in either. Let me know what you guys think. For a guitarist, I think this is one of the most intimidating things to do because it's very easy to ruin your guitar. The only other thing that kind of stinks about this guitar is this is a guitar that was made before they put in truss rods. So you kind of, in order to fix the action, you kind of do need to level the fretboard, or just basically reinstall the neck. And so, yeah. Okay. Have some coffee real quick, and we'll go on to fret number 3. Fret number 3. Bagoon. Bagoosh. If you have a guitar that has a lot of wear on the fretboard too, this is a real easy way to fix that. It's just tough because like sometimes they just don't want to grab at all. I think I might need one more heating. Yeah, I think I need one more level of heating on this. Because basically why you're heating it is to get rid of the glue that underlies it. Generally, it's like super glue. Which I'd say on my previous fret job might be the one thing I did wrong. Where I probably put a little too much glue on the frets. And it's generally your ends that are going to have some give eventually. Come on. Come on. Whew, this does not want to come out. This is a stubborn fret. There we go. I think I might need to do one more round of heating just to get this to like grasp. But we got a little bit of an end, which is good. And you don't want to force it. Like if you force this, you're going to split the wood and then you're done, you know. If you damage the rosewood, I mean, you're not done. You could technically replace the rosewood, but who wants to do that? Got it. Got it coming. I know it's probably hard to see that I've got it, but I've got it a little bit more, giving a little more give. Whew. That one was glued in a lot more tight, but we got it. Fretboard did get a little chipped on the edges. Not too much, though. Not unfixable. Again, we're going to be planing this with a sander. Three down. One trick that I read about when I was looking into how to do this was a lot of people mess up because they go too fast. Dropped my soldering iron. A lot of people mess up because they go too fast. And so you want to go nice and slow. And one thing you'll see as you're doing the soldering over the fret is it does like make the wood just a little bit lighter. Like you'll see it slightly lighten. But man, they really get in there. And you're just trying to kind of find a grip, but these are so flat, it's going to take a little bit of time, which is a good sign that they needed to be replaced. Like if they're that flat to the board, okay, let's get it reheated again. Corey said a lot of people mess up because that soldering iron burns their house down. Yeah, there's that too. Oh, goodness. We got a tiny burn from the soldering iron on the fretboard, but luckily I can fix that. Whew. I have to be cautious with that. That's kind of a bummer. Nothing damaging though, which is good. It's just taken forever to get this get a grip on this fret. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people, these frets are a little tougher than the last ones. But again, a lot of people will like get frustrated at this point, like rush it, and it's like that is the last thing you want to do with this. Also, I can tell these are like cheap fret metal because the metal's like chipping so easily. So they didn't have like the best quality of frets here to begin with. So again, we're just gonna heat it up. I'm gonna very carefully place this back. because we don't want to burn the house down. Per Corey. That would be like a Corey move, okay? I don't want to make Corey moves here. I could see, Corey, you having like a near-death experience with a soldering iron. Okay, we're getting there. Again, I don't want to pull it too much. I don't want to get too eager. Yeah, Corey said nylon is a lot easier on frets than steel is. Yeah. Which is why I'm not doing I'm not going to reinstall stainless steel frets on this one. The last fret job I did was stainless steel, which can be a beast. There we go. There we go. Nice and easy peasy. All right. Boom. Fret number 4 out. Corey was like, how did Corey's house burn down? Well, he tried to become a luthier. I have to admit, it's very addictive to like work on guitars because, you know, when I started messing with guitars, it was just like learning how to solder electronics and like replacing tuners and stuff on an electric. And electric guitars, especially like Fenders or Squiers, were built kind of like cars where like they're meant to have, I mean, even though like there's people who are like purist collectors or whatever, it's like, especially Fenders were built to be like, you know, if your neck goes out, you can just swap the neck, you know, because they're screwed in. Like all the components are built to be like upgraded or replaced. Whereas on a classical or like an acoustic, they're kind of traditionally supposed to be built to last, you know. And you have builders like Martin would be a really good example of a builder that, you know, builds guitars that will last like 100 years, you know. And this one thing I'm doing is generally the one thing you're going to need, or like an occasional truss rod adjustment, or installing a new truss rod or something like that. But a really fun way to start that I've found on working on guitars, and again, I'm no expert in it, but a fun way to start is with an electric, because it's much more forgiving if you make mistakes. Also, the wood is easier to rework, right? Because it's painted. There was a little burn spot there that we got on the where I aired, but luckily I don't think that went too deep into the wood, so that should sand right off. Because again, we're taking a completely flat radius, and then we're gonna add this to it, basically at a 16. So it's a slight bend. All right, we're gonna get through these frets. How are you guys doing? I'd love to hear how everybody's doing in the chats. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on, how your projects are coming along. One thing I intend to do this weekend is read Dave Baker's new book called Mary Tyler Moorhawk. I pre-ordered it and it arrived, and we have him coming on Artcasters on Thursday. And I think that'll be on Corey's channel. But I kind of want to, if I can, at least read a chunk of it. I do think it's going to be kind of similar to a Chris Ware book in the sense that it's pretty meta, so it'll require some really focused reading time. But that's like my favorite kind of book. So that's something else I want to do this 3-day weekend. We'll see how much I accomplish, you know. But I thought it would be fun to start off the weekend doing something fun. Like a hobby type thing. All right. We're getting there. I'm getting a little bit of give, but I got to be patient with it, you know? Inlay dots will be fun. That'll be the next part after sanding. So what we're going to do is sand the radius to the board, get that all looking nice. And then we'll do our front inlay dots, resand the radius, and then we'll get our side inlay dots. But we have some nice ivory inlay dots that'll be pretty cool. Or not ivory, sorry, pearl. Ivory would be weird. Be a strange inlay dot material. It's getting there. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's like you can kind of feel it start to give a little bit. I'm going to give it one more pass across. Okay, and we'll reheat carefully. There we go. I have to reheat that one little end. Gary says he's doing chores in his office while listening, with plans to spend most of this afternoon and evening working on the new Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots script. And then Gary said, is that a specialty tool made just for this and is therefore priced accordingly unreasonably? These are pretty affordable, but yeah, it's called a fret puller. And it basically is just a flat end kind of pincher that can pull out. But you can get these for like $10, $20. The only tool that I spent like decent money on was a I'll show you guys in a second. It's a tiny little fret dressing file for the ends of the frets. And that you don't want to skimp out on. That I paid like maybe $20 for on StewMac. Here, I'll show you. And if you see the size of it, you'll be like, oh, for $20. But this thing was the most expensive tool. This little guy. And why it's great is it's specialized in the sense that it's a fine file, but it has no file end on this side. So you can file fret ends without damaging the ends of your board. Okay. How many frets do we have pulled so far? Chapow. Quite a few. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets pulled. So we got a few more to go. Whew. And these have been some ornery frets. And it's just about taking your time, not, overdoing it or going too quickly. Okay, here we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited about working on some comics this weekend too. It's been nice. I've been making progress on it, but not as much as I would like. I'm hearing resistance from like the wood, so I want to make sure I'm keeping this nice and hot. Whew, that one smelled. That was melting metal. Look at that though, it just popped out. It did need that little extra reheat. Okay. So we only have a few frets left. We had a really good conversation on Artcasters, the last Artcasters episode. And I think it's just like it's really interesting how deconstructing things to a few core elements, like trying to find like the primary elements of things, like can simplify what otherwise would be like a really overwhelming process. So even in the sense of like doing fretwork on a guitar, can seem really overwhelming at first because there's so many considerations with a guitar, but you start realizing like a lot of the guys who originally built guitars came from like lines of cabinet makers. Same with like violin makers, stuff like that. Like woodworking instrument folks came from carpenters. So it's like interesting how the stringed instrument and carpentry are like tied very hand in hand together. A lot of the same finishes, a lot of the same basics. And I think I'm getting some give on this fret, but again, these are so flat, they just take a little longer. I think the last guitar I did this on was, the frets weren't in as bad of shape. Or maybe they just weren't installed as securely. Like these frets have been glued in, my dude. Their little anchors are real tight in there. Whew. It's funny too, because it may not look like hard work, but at this point I'm already like sweating a bit. Okay. I think I might need to do one more pass of heat. I could probably skimp for like a better soldering iron. There we go. Still like getting a lot of resistance on this. And I'm trying to avoid splitting the wood. Inevitably, some splitting will happen. But ideally, you know, I want it to be pretty smooth. Just that end doesn't want to come. There we go. Ooh, that one was stuck in there. All right, we're almost there. We've almost pulled the whole fretboard. And I think once we remove all these frets, we'll probably take like a brief commercial break. Am I too loud? How's the volume? I hope the volume's okay. So I wanted to know your guys' thoughts on the band Sublime. I have mixed feelings about it. I have a soft spot for Sublime because growing up, I don't think I was super into Sublime because everyone in my local area who liked Sublime was like a weird frat guy. They were like a bro dude, you know? And so, but when I moved to Long Beach, at least at the time, it seems like just a Long Beach thing to like Sublime. Like, it just feels like Long Beach. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of like Snoop too, you know? It's like you're gonna like Snoop if you live in Long Beach. I don't know why. It's just part of the vibe there. But I still think, like, you know, the members of the band probably not the greatest people, stuff like that. But actually, I think they were good musicians. Gary said the volume's fine, but I feel like that is a real divisive band that people either like absolutely hate or really dig. And I was thinking about that the other day, like how weird it is that there's a band that can be like that. But I think a lot of it has to do with the culture around the band. But I don't know why I was thinking about Sublime the other day. Maybe I was feeling a little homesick for Long Beach. I don't know if you guys have that at all, but I feel like wherever you live when you go to college, I think kind of sticks with you. Like if you go to college, go off to college or whatever, that location will kind of stick with you because it's a lot of your young adulthood spent in that area. So for me, Long Beach always feels a little bit like home, you know? Even though I don't think I'd want to live there anymore. Yeah, Gary was saying it does feel like music that would be on the background at a beach party or kegger or something, but not my bag. Yeah, it's again, like my area, the people who are into Sublime here, not my kind of people. Like no judgment, just not my kind of people. A friend of mine was talking about the Sublime phenomenon, and he was saying it's kind of like the Republican thing where not all Republicans are racists, but all racists are Republicans. and it's like that with Sublime, where it's like not all fans of Sublime are douchebags, but douchebags all love Sublime. Anyhow, I probably just lost like half my audience. How dare you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What do we got here, guys? We got a heating up fret. We're getting there with the fret wire. The thing that I'm really curious about, because I've fretted and refretted, the thing I haven't done yet that could go miserably wrong during this stream, other than possibly lighting my house on fire with a soldering iron, is the installing the inlay dots. That's where this could go severely wrong, like really badly. Yeah, these I don't know if they had like crazy long prongs on this or just crazy glue. But these are so deeply embedded. I will say the plus side is this is the only thing I need a soldering iron for. Yeah, I love playing Frank's commercial when I'm doing these transition things too, because it's a pretty long commercial. And so it gives me like enough time to like get over here, get set up, get ready to rock, you know? Gary said, "What are you listening to right now?" I'm chewing on the latest album from The Smile. I've been digging the hell out of The Smile, man. I found out about them way late in the game. And I didn't realize, I think I found out about them like after their second album or something. And I was like, wait, Radiohead? Radiohead pretty much is putting out albums. Like most of Radiohead. It was a real cool enjoyment. So yeah, I've been digging that. I've been listening to, I love Boy Genius. I really dig Boy Genius. That's been my jam. I just found a band like a week ago. That's another one of those bands composed of guys that I really dig. I'll pull it up on my phone in a second. That I didn't realize had a band. It's the bassist and drummer from Fugazi have been putting out albums. And I don't think they've put out one recently. I just didn't know they existed. And so I've been listening to the heck out of that. If I can figure out where I left my phone. Oh, my phone's somewhere. I don't know. During this madness, I'll if I find my phone or I'm able to, I'll let you know the name of that band. You guys could just Google it too. It's literally just the bassist and drummer from Fugazi, but they have like this different guitarist in it. And so it's kind of like surf indie post hardcore, which is really cool. And then there's another band that I got into called Cigarettes After Sex. They're like real shoegaze. Actually, honestly, if you aren't already listening to them, Gary, that's like, that music's right up your alley. They're real like shoegaze. It kind of reminds me of like Mazzy Star. It's got that kind of vibe, like early 90s shoegaze. But really good songs, well-written songs and stuff. What are you guys... so Gary talked about what he's listening to. What else? What are you guys listening to right now? Man, these later frets are real hard to get to. They're stubborn frets. I heard my phone buzz, so I know it's somewhere near. Oh, there it is. Let me look up that band real quick before I pull the... Well, let me pull it while it's still hot, actually. Hold on. We're pulling frets, guys. Whew! That one was a beast. Okay. Let me go to my Spotify. And let's do our... So I've been listening... Okay, Slow Dive, Cigarettes After Sex. And I'm looking for the name of that one. I won't find it in time. You can look it up. La Armada has been pretty cool. That's like some LA hardcore. Oh my goodness. It's a Saturday. But yeah, if I were to like go through my playlist and be like, this band, which band would Gary be into? It would be Cigarettes After Sex. And also, what a great name. I wish I had thought of that for a book title. That's a great band name. Controversial, relatable, gives you a picture. Yeah, I've been on the Boy Genius bit too, because Phoebe Bridgers is pretty cool. Good songwriter. Oh my gosh, this does not want to happen. You're going to hear people fixing food in the background because this is in the kitchen. I am working at the kitchen table, preparing a meal of awesome. That's actually the big twist of this, is I'm not working on a guitar, I'm just preparing it to eat.
It's a cake.
Ironically, that would be a viral YouTube video, is like, watch me eat my guitar.
It's a cake.
Okay. Yeah, Gary said Cigarettes After Sex is pretty great. I need to get more of their stuff. So I think Gary was already familiar.
Not a bad word.
Oh yeah, Ben doesn't like that band name. As he shouldn't. He's 10, you know. Okay. Ooh. Don't want to burn my house down, so I have to be careful with that soldering iron. I've really, it's funny, I dig back a lot in music too. So I don't know why, but like, this last month I've been rocking Zeppelin a lot more. Which is interesting. But you gotta like Zeppelin. I went on a little kick recently. There was I can't remember the name he goes by now, but the artist who used to go by the name Mos Def, he did a quote about Drake that went viral, where he was basically saying Drake makes good music for. Well, somebody was asking whether they thought Drake was hip hop, and Mos Def was like, "It's good music for like a grocery store or if you're shopping." Anyhow, so he was kind of insulting Drake, and that made me remember how much I liked Mos Def. So I've been listening to Mos Def a lot too recently, just because I was like, "Oh yeah, Mos Def!" Like I love Mos Def, so that was funny. And I really, really do not like Drake. If I had to pick like a least favorite musician, he would be on there. Here's a question for you guys if you're watching. So, what do you think is worse? Do you think it's worse to have something indie that's awful, like an independent book that sucks, or a work that's like greatly revered that is terrible? What do you view as more awful? Is like an independent thing that's not so good, or something that's like highly revered that you're like, why is everybody into this? I don't understand. You tell me, guys. We're almost there with the frets. It's just that's the catch with working on guitars. It's a very slow, tedious romp through the jungle. Some guitars this would have gone quicker, but these had worn so low. You can kind of see why I needed to pull them. I mean, these are torched. They're also inlaid so hard in there. Ooh. So we're going to go ahead and break after I finish the frets. We only have like 7 left. It's really, this fret does not want to come out. Oh. There we go. There we go. It's just like a very slow waiting game where it's tempting to just break it and like not follow this tedious process, but once you get it with minimal damage to the board, you know, you feel pretty good about that. Gary was saying, I don't want to name it, but I just finished a graphic novel by one of the comics Golden Boys. It was a pile of 5 of 5 The Master Does It Again reviews, and I was almost angry at how mediocre I feel it is. And he said, Super Emperor Has No Clothes. We'll have to text about that in private, Gary. I'm curious what it is, but I understand not wanting to put an indie creator or a comic creator on blast. I personally feel like it's the for me it's the I think with independent stuff I'm sympathetic to artists trying. And so it's like independent stuff doesn't get as much hate or love, and so with that I'm a lot more prone to like give it forgiveness. What's up?
May wanted one of those big nugget characters. So I got the Kerwin Frost box.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my wife and I and my wife's sister are all really into the little Kerwin Frost McNuggets.
They're so ugly cute.
They're like the overpriced Happy Meal for kids, and they have the little McNugget buddies from the 80s. And yeah, we've been getting those. I know McDonald's is evil, I know, but
Also, look, this is what Josh got me for Valentine's Day for our fish tank.
yeah, I got other stuff too, but yes, we've got a walker, an Imperial walker for the fish tank.
Next stream, when we clean the fish tank, you can show them because we're gonna put this in.
Oh yeah, maybe I can show you guys what our fish tank looks like on the next stream after, because we're gonna be cleaning it after I'm done with this. But yeah, we're gonna have a underwater. I mean, come on, how could you not get a walker for your fish tank? You know. I mean, if you saw that and you had a fish tank, how could you walk by it? Wow, these frets at the end are like beat up. I also think tends to be when the guitar maker is installing the frets, they usually go a little too hard on the glue for the end. Okay. You're going to hear a little bit of sound in the background. And I think it's my wife watching Judge Judy, which is pretty awesome. Judge Judy is awesome. We like Judge Judy. All right, guys, we have almost got these frets pulled entirely. Whew. That one I might have rushed at the end a little bit too much. Yeah, Gary said yes is the answer to your question. It's not so much indie versus mainstream. I hate it when it feels like the culture just declares someone is going to have their moment, seemingly irrespective of everything. Yeah, and what's sad is sometimes it's an artist you like and it's their moment. Like they've been working really hard. Like I've had this happen with cartoonists that I know. Well, not ones that I know, but that I've followed the work of. Or with like musicians that I'm a really big fan of, and I see them get big, and it's awesome to see them finally get recognition. But quite often, it's like it's not their best work that they're getting recognition for. Like their best work went unseen. Good example of this. You know what? I'll put one musician on blast. They weren't really indie, but like Weezer is a really good example of this. So Weezer puts out Pinkerton, I think their best album, and it's like it's an utter failure compared to like the Blue album. And then after that, they make the Green album, which is like a meh, okay album. It's not a good album. It's not a bad album. And that's what makes Weezer like this big mega band, you know, instead of their best album, you know, and then they basically just recycle that formula on every preceding album. And you never quite get another Pinkerton, you know? And who can blame them? Because, you know, you got to make a living. and they're like, yeah, you got to kind of go where the money is.
There's a children's book about a dog named Pinkerton. It's a big Great Dane.
Yes.
Very cute.
Mai said there's a children's book about a big Great Dane named Pinkerton. That's very cute. There's also what cops used to be called was Pinkertons. They were like cops for hire. Guys, we have managed to remove. So what's weird is this might seem like it's taking a long time, but I was surprised how quick it went. I thought this process, when I first saw people doing it and stuff, would be a lot harder and a lot more time consuming than it is. So this I know is going to take a while because I actually can see some of the glue that the previous workers, in fact, I'm melting it right now, had left on this fret. So this one might be harder because it's going to be a little more stuck in. We'll start on the gluiest end. You got to reheat it. I can already see the glue kind of dried on the end. Yeah, it really doesn't want to get that end. This end is close. This end, it's just that glue. Oh, there we go. we almost got to give now. Once I pull this, hopefully I can show you guys the glue that was in there. Okay. Whew. And you can see the glue on the end of this, I think. It's like a little bit of glue stuck from the previous. Gary was saying, right, sometimes I think pop culture on the press will celebrate accessibility to which me isn't worth celebrating. Yeah, and I think that, again, it's like, would I be happy with that? Like, I poured my heart and soul into like a book. If I made another book that I'm less like engaged in, but it still exploded, and then people started discovering my previous work, I don't think I'd mind that. I think that if you are like the chosen one of the moment, you know, there's definitely people who play the press game better. And as I get older, I start realizing how much, like a lot of what rises to the top, some of it is like occasionally quality that will rise to the top, but a lot of it, what rises to the top is just the person who has the better marketing campaign. And you know, unfortunately, I think that's just part of the thing. So I judge it less as I get older because I kind of see like that's kind of part of what it is. It's kind of like the moment when you're an adult. Well, honestly, the moments when you're an adult and you start realizing that a lot of authority is just acting. It's like kind of a bummer to have that realization, but then you realize like, well, it's an illusion, but it's like a powerful illusion. And you kind of have to learn how to weld it a little bit in life. It's fake and it's phony and it's kind of annoying, but it's just, it is what it is, you know? I think it's the same with art where you start seeing the commercial side of things. It can be heartbreaking, but you can't let that stuff. I don't think we can let stuff like that dissuade us from trying to make good art as artists, because at the end of the day, whether you're the chosen, you know, whether you're the hot thing of the moment or not, you know, your responsibility as an artist isn't to explode and become famous. Your responsibility is to make good art. And I think as long as you stay true to that, then you're being an artist, you know? But yeah, that can be a tough one to navigate. Speaking of, and it makes you appreciate, like, the more you become aware of like the marketing thing and all of that, and like the fact that like the press will pick like the golden kid of the moment or the golden person of the moment. It makes you appreciate though when they do pick someone very deserving. You know. But I never understood that with people who are fans of like indie punk bands or whatever, and they're like, how dare they use this punk band in a BMW commercial? And I'm like, to an extent, kind of like, good for the band. Like, most of those punk bands didn't make a dime when they were making art. And as long as the band's okay with it, like if the band's opposed to it, that's a problem. But as long as the band's okay with it, hey, that's some income for a band that probably like mostly like died in obscurity. A lot of these bands, you know. Gary was saying, yes, to be clear, I'm not begrudging this creator. Glad he's successful, but there's a weirdo Kool-Aid being drunk around him right now that's off-putting, and I'm judging the crowd harshly. Yeah, I can understand that. I'm curious. I'm really curious who you're talking about. And then I also feel like there's definitely a lot of cases, and I'm sure this doesn't tie into what you're talking about, Gary, but there's a lot of cases where there's somebody who's lauded and famous for a reason. Like a good example would be like Radiohead, I think would be a perfect example of that. Radiohead is a mega band, you know, they can fill, you know, Madison Square Garden, and they have never put out a bad album. And so people who like hate on Radiohead, I think a lot of them are just like hating on mainstream for the sake of hating on mainstream. And maybe some people sincerely don't like Radiohead, but my point is, there's scenarios where like there's a reason that band is like the band they are, or there's a reason that artist is, so revered. I am going to put Dave Pilkey up there. Dave Pilkey, creator of Captain Underpants and Dogman, makes great kids books. They're excellent kids books. They're wildly entertaining. They're well written. They're some people would say they're not well drawn. Those people are idiots. I think Dave Pilkey is a great cartoonist. He's one of the best cartoonists around right now. And is it good that like Dogman is at Walmart and Target and everywhere? Yes, that's excellent because they're great books. They're good books. They're fun. They're well written for kids. They're well written. They're not like Shakespearean, deep dive into like the soul or anything, but they're great books. Another example would be the Beatles. A lot of there's people who hate the Beatles. I don't believe those people. I just don't believe them. I'm like, maybe they hate one song. Like I hate Yellow Submarine so much. Hate that song. But I love the Beatles. So maybe when they're thinking the Beatles, they're thinking of like one song. But it's hard for me to take somebody who doesn't regard the Beatles very seriously. Or at least acknowledge that they're good, and their contribution to music. Okay. So guys, we have pulled. We're down to the last fret. Whew. It's been a beast. It's been a little over an hour. Yeah, Gary said Radiohead hate is kind of hard to take seriously. So it's been over about an hour, and we're at the point of pulling the last fret. Oh, this one was coming too easy. It was almost too good to be true. And what's great is I can finally unplug the soldering iron. Because soldering irons, man, those things make me nervous. Whew! We did it. Frets have all been removed. We have now a fretless board. Baga! And it shows you the work we got to do on it. Got a lot of work to level this fretboard. Okay, I'm going to unplug that soldering iron. Let it cool. Okay, so we got our soldering iron sitting on the thing. We're in a pretty good spot to now level the fretboard, which I think will be pretty fun, with different levels of sandpaper. What I'm going to do real quick, though, is I'm going to take a quick break. So we'll play a trailer. So I'm going to step out of the room, press play on the trailer. If you guys are watching this and enjoying it, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And that way, you get notification. You've hit the bell, so you get notifications when we're about to go live. When we come back, what we're going to do is level this fretboard. And we'll see how level it is right now. There's a little bit of variation in the height on this thing. Not a lot. But we're going to level and radius this. What's up?
Can I tell you a funny joke?
Sure, what's up?
Are you sad? Don't be sad. Because sad spelled backward is das, and that's not good.
That's not good. I like it. That was a great joke. This is a soldering iron that's like 1,000,000 degrees, so do not touch this.
Just sit on it.
I know, but let May know too that right next to the water thing is a hot soldering iron, and don't touch it or you will burn yourself. Okay.
That's not good.
That's not good. That's a great joke.
There's a soldering iron on the kitchen counter.
Okay.
Okay, I'll touch it then. You can touch it right
And
now.
let's play.
We now return to Can't Say the Craziest Thing.
So, little Susie, do you have any brothers or sisters? I understand you're in 3rd grade. How do you like that? Do you like your teacher? You like to do a lot of fun things at school? You got any hobbies, Susie? Any things you like to do when you're not in school? I hear you like to read.
Well, right now I'm reading 2 stories written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. It grapples with faith and mental illness. It's ultimately a story about redemption. It's a savage piece of writing. Also, I just finished up Jacob's Apartment, another one by Kemble. Jacob's Apartment weaves together elements of spiritualism and relationship dynamics, as well as atheism, and all the while it deals with abandonment and loyalty. It's a fierce read.
Do you like ponies?
Okay, I absolutely love that one. That's one of my favorites. Corey said, I leave in a few minutes, and Gary kicks off in the chats. I'm going to have to go back to see what we're all talking about. Nice. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to let me see where my coffee's at. I'm going to get a refill of coffee, and then we're going to start sanding this, and I'll show you how that's done. So the nice thing is we're starting with an already level neck. What you'd want to do if you had a newer guitar, this was probably built in the 60s, I'm guessing. There's no truss rod. A truss rod is like a rod that's put into the neck, and you can kind of adjust with an Allen wrench to kind of straighten your neck. You want to make sure your neck is completely straight on here. And there is no truss rod on this. So what we're going to do is be basically making a lot of sandy goodness. And then we're going to install our little dots. So these guys, this will be the last you see of them. These lovely little things, these are going to go away as we sand it. And then we will install new inlay dots, which has a whole method to it that we're going to have to learn. So pretty exciting. But the first thing is just a lot of sanding. Got my coffee. I've got my 16 radius. I'm going to do a 16 radius, which is a pretty round radius for a neck. And what we're going to do is just get double-sided tape and put it on the back of the radius block. And this goes strangely kind of quickly. And I'm actually skipping a step, so we'll do that step once we have our double-sided tape stuck to the back of this. Doesn't need to be super fancy or anything like that. You're just kind of putting it in on the back of your sanding block so that your sanding block will have stickiness to basically put sanders on. So that's step 2. I actually just remembered step 1 once I was doing that. We're going to get some masking tape. I'm And we're going to protect the guitar. What's up? Oh, cool. And I might have to go to eat in a second. But I think what we'll do is sand, and then we'll come back to streaming after the sanding. Or the first round of sanding, maybe before the inlay dots. So what I'm going to do now is I'm putting masking tape on the areas of the guitar that I want to protect. So like, for instance, the side. What's up? Her nugget tray? Oh, yeah. I wonder which one she got. You'll have to show us which nugget buddy she got. So we're going to make sure we're doing the sides here of the fretboard. And you're just trying to protect the wood from the sander, from the wrath of the sander.
I did.
Which one did you get?
John Bernice.
John Bernice? Is that the one with... Oh, I need to... Oh, you have to show that. Here, can you show that on here? That's amazing. Look at it. Look at the joy of it. That's great. I actually like her a lot.
I wanted Brick.
Yeah. I like Bernice, though.
Bernice is cool.
Yeah.
Bernice is dope.
She's got it going on.
No shit talk on Bernice.
All right. So now what we're going to do is this part that's here, we're going to go ahead and tape this off. And I'm going to start with one side and then get it to the other very shortly. I've also noticed that over here, it's dipped down a bit. So I want to put another tape to protect it. Similarly, the other side. Okay, and again, I'm going to try to kind of protect as much of the fretboard as possible for when we start leveling and sanding. A tiny bit here that I need to do, just a little bit. There we go. And a bit here. Sometimes people will use, painter's tape so you don't get residual stickiness. I'm not too concerned because we can kind of clean a lot of that off after the fact. But this is the first round of tape. There's a lot of tape in this process. So now I'm going to cover the sound hole with tape because a lot of this dust can get into the sound hole. So you want to sort of cover that up too. Just so you're not getting a bunch of, wood dust on the sound hole. And I'm going to just try to get this little arch even if it's just like weirdly stuck on there, I want to kind of protect that too. That little arch, or at least under the arch. So that I can relatively have this all kind of protected to an extent, right? It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close. And we're covering the sound hole now. So we've got like covering on the sound hole. We've got our sides kind of masked off and protected. And now we're ready to start sanding. Okay. Dee Dee said, well, I thought I would try Josh's channel again, but he is saying not all Republicans are racist, but all racists are Republicans. Killed it. Might want to check the anti-Semitic racism. How is that anti-Semitic? I don't know. Anyhow, that's interesting because Semitism's usually in regards to like people who are saying things against Jewish people, which I said nothing like. But anyhow, so here we go. We've got our little leveling to go. Okay. So we have our 2500 grit, different grits of sandpaper. I'm going to set them aside because we need to go through each grit. So there's my 3000. I've got my 2500. I've got my 400. I've got my more 3000. Don't need that. I'm just going through my varieties of sandpaper and kind of organizing them so I can go from the lowest to the highest grit. So we got our 400 here, which we've already got. Let me see. Okay, I've got my 2000 grit. So that's going to be next in the line. I'm just trying to put them in order of grit. Dee Dee said, racism isn't limited to one side, Josh. There are anti-Semites on the left. Good luck with your hypocrisy. Okay. You know what I've found? This is something I've found personally, and maybe I'm crazy here, but I've found that like people who tend to complain about people getting political on streams or stating their political viewpoint don't mind people getting political. They just throw a tantrum when people get political in a way that doesn't align with their viewpoint. That's what I've found. So anyhow, do with that what you will. All right, so we have our 1,500.
Don't forget you have lunch on
1,000. Yeah, I'm gonna do lunch after I do the first round of sanding. That way we got a good 2 hours into the stream. But so we've got our 1,000. I feel like there's a 600 grit that I need. I hope I'm not low on that. And I have to look in my bin. So we got our 1,000 grit. There needs to be a 600 in here. I'm not sure what happened with those. Maybe I burnt through all those on my last sanding. My last sanding, the last of the last stand for the sandpaper. Okay. Ho-ho! I knew I was missing some. We got our 600. 600 grit. We're going to do our 800 grit. 800, 600, 400, and I thought we had a finer grit, but maybe not. Maybe it's like, I thought it went to like 3. Let me see what we got. Woohoo! 240. That's what we needed. So, what I've got is all of our grits of sandpaper in order from the hardest level to like the softest grit. And what we're going to do is use our sanding block to kind of install, you know, the right grit of paper on here. And we're going to do our 240 first. So I'm just going to basically get it clamped to the sanding block. I'm going to bend up the corners so that they don't kind of interfere. Mainly the end corners are what I'm worried about. So, in fact, we might even tape those, but I don't think we need to tape them. And then we're just going to do some honest to God, just legit sanding. Okay, so this is just a long process of just going through and sanding. Let me get some coffee real quick. And then what we're going to do is radius the board. So like right now it's flat. When we're done with this, it won't be. And I'll go ahead and move this to where I can talk while we do this, okay? So here we go. And unfortunately, those inlay dots that were here, those are going to disappear because those were screen printed on. But that's kind of part of the process of what we're doing today. With this heavier grit sandpaper, we're just going to go through and just sand down the board. And you don't want to apply too much pressure. You want to kind of let the sandpaper do its thing. And I might need to see if I have another 240 in here. And what we're doing is just radiusing the fretboard entirely. So it's going to start getting like pretty sandy, right? I might even wash this and then return. So I'm going to go wash this and then we'll come back, do another pass. And I don't even mind it being a little wet. That's fine. That'll help it. And this like heavier grit is going to be doing most of the work of the sanding. And again, because we're applying a radius, this is going to take off a lot of the fretboard. Flip it. I'm going to get rid of my fret puller here. That rosewood's starting to look so pretty, though. Whew, I think I need to find another sheet of 240 if I can. See if I can find some more 240. All right, out of 240, so we're just going to go to our 400 and try to do most of our work with our 400. Hopefully that'll do it. So again, taping it on, got that double-sided tape, should go real smooth. Gary was saying, will the new frets be simultaneously curved? Yeah, they'll have a radius to them as well. The nice thing about frets is generally they're kind of pre-curved a little bit, and you kind of hammer them in, so that's sort of how it works. Yep. Okay. So we're just getting as much of this off as we can. Try to get that 240 back real quick. Okay, we got our 240 going again. We're doing a little bit of wet sanding. And what's interesting is I'm starting to see the radius take shape because what's happening to the fret markers is the sides are starting to basically disappear, but the center is still pretty solid, which is kind of what you want to see on a radius. And this is going to get sandy, you know? It's going to get real sandy. That's why it's nice to have like a little guitar stool or like a pad or whatever that you're working off of. And it's just a long, tedious process of sanding, you know? That's why I wanted to start this before lunch. What I want to do is sand this until I don't see the fret markers anymore. And then once we're there, we can inlay the new fret dots. That's going to take a while because it literally has to take off a lot of wood to get from a flat to a 16-inch radius, you know? Whew! Gary said, well, you have to reshape and recut the grooves they go into somewhat. We're not taking off that much, so the lines will still be there, which is great. But yes, you definitely have to once we reinstall the frets, yes, you do have to kind of go over it with a wood cutting knife and kind of recut those lines. Not super crazy cuts, but definitely a little bit, you know. Man, I will tell you though, as I'm doing this, the wood, like the rosewood, is just beautiful. That's coming out of this. So it's like my suspicion about this guitar and the wood when I ordered it is definitely dead on, because it is beautiful. This rosewood has just like some beautiful figuring on it. All right, we're getting there. I'm seeing fret dots disappear. I know you guys can't see a lot of that, but these fret dots are starting to disappear, and that's what we want to see. What we're going to do, once I see those frets start to disappear, we're going to lower the grade of sandpaper, higher the grade of it, so that it goes from like this heavier sanding to a much smoother sanding. That will then make it more worked out, you know? Whew. Get some water on this. And again, you want to get sandpaper that's cool with like wet sanding. You obviously don't want to get your guitar like super soaked, but a little bit of water is not going to kill wood as you're sanding. In fact, it will make it a much smoother sand. And we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. The radius is almost there, which means this is going to have like a nice curve to it. And that's why it's really important when you're getting this to get a really accurate radius block if you're adding a radius. But are you seeing some of this? Well, anyhow, when we clean it off, you'll be pretty impressed, but you'll see how like pretty the wood is underneath. Whew. Hands getting tired. Yeah, You know, it's funny. Regards to like the person who like flipped out about like one political joke made on a stream. It's funny to me that, like, again, the double standard that's applied by people. It's like, well, I was a big fan of this until you went and mentioned this stuff. And it's like, you look at the content they consume, and it's like 90% of what content they consume is stuff that gets political like every second. And you're like, well, do you really care about the political thing, or is it just that it's not aligned with your beliefs, you know? Okay, let's see here. Gary said wet sanding is a bit gentler, so it might slow you down a bit. Yeah, it is gentler, and it kind of helps buff. So I am doing that kind of with intention. We're starting with the heavier grits. We're going to wet sand our way through the whole process, which will be slow and steady, but it will occur. And I am seeing progress. It's like, it's taken a while, but whew. I will say, if you could see the rosewood, like the beauty of this sanding stuff, if you could see the rosewood, you would be amazed at how beautiful this is. Now, by the way, in general, when you're refretting, you usually don't have to sand this much and take this much off the fretboard. Man, that feels good. But because I'm adding a radius to a previously flat fretboard, it means the sides of it have to take off a substantial amount of wood. So we're taking off more of the fretboard than you generally have to do on average with this. But we have a lot of fretboard to work with because it's a classical guitar. So I'm like less precious about this than I would be on, like, say, the Yamaha that I refretted. Whew. I just swap the sides. Man, if you guys could see how beautiful, like, I'll kind of tilt it to you so you can see some of the beautiful, like, streaking. Now you're seeing the rosewood, you know? Okay. I think I'll do one more wet pass on this, and then we'll go to the other grit. Okay, one more wet pass. Gary said stepping away for a bit to make some late lunch. It's a good idea, Gary. Got a little drop of water here on the guitar itself. We don't want that. We're just going to check to make sure we're not messing up the alignment. And I'm seeing those fret markers disappear, which is the goal. We'll know we're done when we get to those center fret markers. Then we'll have our full radius. Till then, It's just sanding and sanding. Once we're at the 2-hour mark, I'll play a commercial real quick. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Let me know in the comments section your thoughts. And we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Getting closer. It's a long, tedious process. Whew. All right. And once I see those fret markers disappear, I'm going to start going through the grits. What was that TV show where I think the character Flo used to say, "Kiss my grits"? You remember that? We're really starting to feel the radius on this board, which is great. And I'm starting to see those side markers disappear, which makes me excited. We are almost at the 2-hour mark, so 3 minutes and I can take a brief break, play another commercial. So if this were like not a live stream, you know, this would be the part of the video where you'd speed it up. And again, a lot of people will blast through this too quickly, and then they ruin their guitar, you know? So it's like, kind of, part of the name of the game is patience, taking your time. Whew. Okay, I'm going to do one more wet sand. It's feeling so good already, and I haven't even changed grits of sandpaper. All right. And it's just a long process of just patiently sanding away, taking your time. Start seeing why we have tape on the sides, you know. But the beauty of having those screen printed fret markers is those can act as a marker to let me know when I fully radius the fretboard. Because it's going to take off the sides first as it starts building that radius on the wood. And eventually that center part Another way you can do this is by making marks with a pencil on the board. But since I have those screen printed halftone dots or fret dots, I'm pretty good for that. Whew. I gotta say, I'm working up a bit of a sweat here. We are almost fully radiused, ladies and gentlemen. Very close. Hopefully this is kind of fun for you guys to listen to while you're working on stuff. Hopefully it's interesting for those of you who might be interested in, modding or working on a guitar. Or maybe you're a steel string guitarist that wants to have a radiused classical fretboard with inlay dots, which is very unusual for a classical guitar, but might make you more comfortable playing one. Hopefully this will be interesting for you guys. Whew. How to show you my progress, okay? Slow but steady. See those side dots? They're almost out. We just have to get all the way through. It also, of course, is going to take longer on a fretboard to do this kind of thing because fretboard material is tougher woods, like ebony or rosewood. And those are woods that can kind of take a beating. That's why they're used for fretboards. So they take a while, especially if you're radiusing a flat neck. But if you rush it or you try to muscle it too much, you can totally mess up the straightness of the thing. Whew. Okay. We're going to take a real quick break, and I'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Chris and I like comics. I want to talk about this comic for a second here. I just got this in. I ordered it direct from my local comic shop through Diamond Distributing. It's Joshua Kemble's Jacob's Apartment. I really enjoyed this book. There's all kinds of comics out there, let's be honest. There's fun comics, there's superhero comics, there's young adult comics, there's adventure comics for kids. There's so many different things on the planet. But there's also an entire subgenre of alternative books. Real life, real world depictions in comic book form. Situations that happen to each and every one of us. And this is a fine example of that. If you get a chance, order this book from your local comic shop. You won't be disappointed. I can't sing its praises high enough. Okay? Check it out. Jacob's Apartment by Joshua Kemble.
All right, we're back at it. Woo-wee! So we're almost done with part one of this, which is pretty exciting. It takes a while, okay? But once we're done with part 1 of this, my plan is to do the inlays on the fretboard, which we'll have to measure out. And then I think once we have the inlays set, we'll have to take a break from stream to let the glue dry. Because I don't want you guys to have to watch glue dry. That doesn't sound like very entertaining streaming to me. And also that way I can have lunch, which I'll have after. We are so close, ladies and gentlemen. I'm seeing the side dots, the 2 that are up here and the 2 that are here are starting to disappear. Whew. Just going from a different direction right now. I'll go back to probably standing over in a second. We're taking off a lot of wood on this fretboard. And again, this may not be advised for every project. Again, this is a $6 classical guitar that we're going to turn into a guitar that should be worth hundreds, in my opinion. But that's going to take some work. So the first step was installing tuners. They had to be customized by filing sanding the ends of the tuners so they would fit. This next part is part 2. This is the other curious part we have to do. And some of this is an experiment. So, we're learning as we go. I've never installed fret dots, fret inlays, or side dots on a guitar before, so this will be fun. And I have a suspicion it's going to work great. This is a thing, too, about art and projects and DIY and stuff like that. It may sound kind of hokey and stuff, but part of the job of anything is just believing you can. And the belief that you can do something, as corny as it is, goes a really long way. Because fear can kind of let you stray away from doing something that you would otherwise be fully capable of doing. And it's only through testing those fears that you really figure out your limits, So the thing that's interesting is I think to people who work in woodwork or something like that, move this furniture so it doesn't get dust all over it. For people who do woodworking, what I'm doing is like a joke. This would be really easy for anybody who does woodworking, I think. But for other people, this might be really fascinating because it's yeah. And again, if we weren't taking off so much of the board, I could have gone in with a file too. But I really want to slow do this so that it's properly radiused. Because I do have a file that would go quicker. I have these things that might go quicker. But in general, I think the radius is a safer bet for the whole thing. Even though it takes forever. Whew. just had to take off so much of the board to get there, you know? Whew. All right. One more pass. Hopefully this is the last pass. We'll see. I've talked about this when I do cartooning, but like one thing I do when I'm on a project is say like I can break when I get to said spot. And in this case, I can break when I have this first radiusing done. Which we're almost there. But if you want to see the wood we've worked through, you can see a pile of the wood right there. Right there. It's quite a bit. And I could have gone about this the easy way by just leveling it flat, but I like a radius neck. And I'm building this for me. Whew. All right. Have a little break from standing. All right, back to it. And it looks like just doing the same thing for like a half an hour, and that's kind of what it is, honestly. But I am seeing progress. Like those little dots are really disappearing. And it's only a matter of time. Once those little dots are gone, be a very brief period of time till we get to that very center where those middle dots are. Whew. Oh. Okay, I'm going to resituate this a little bit. I am starting to get hungry. That's the only downside here, because I haven't had lunch yet. So we'll see. I'd like to hit my mark before taking a break. And I think we're almost there. Just has to take off so much wood, you know? But it's getting there and it's looking real pretty. See that? Nice and beautiful. Just needs that center part. All right. Let's go. And this might be an advantage of being a cartoonist, but it's like for me, I don't mind things taking a little bit of time. I can kind of be patient and wait for it. Even though it's taken forever, it's like I'm seeing progress. That's all I need to see. Whew. I am sweating. If you guys are just tuning in, what we're doing right now is adding a radius to a classical guitar fretboard. So it's basically like a lot of sanding to get there. And the reason I'm doing this with the radius block rather than a file that would go significantly faster is the fact that I want the full radius to be really smoothly inlaid there. Whew. And so far, so good. I'm just starting to lose a bit of steam. I might need to do lunch before we finish this, but we'll see. Let's see if I can get further. Whew. Okay, here we go for the last bit. Can we make it? Okay. Whew. Close. Close. So close. Starting to feel so smooth and good. It's just a long process, okay? Whew. I might have to take another commercial break. I should have taken my pre-workout before doing this. Whew. Okay, we're getting there. Slowly but surely. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on. I think a lot of you guys are probably having lunch. Maybe you're working on lunch. Whew. So close, guys. So very close. Okay. Whew. Whew. I love it. if I have some more. Here we go. Fresh sandpaper. Whew. Still sanding, you know? But we got those side dots, like the double dots are almost gone, which is great. Whew. Okay, let me wet sand this again. Let's see how this goes. Whew. I think we've almost got the double dots done after about an hour of sanding. And once we get to those double dots, we'll start reducing the grits once we get to the main dots. But again, I want to keep these heavier grits for the heavier work here. Whew. Okay, once we get done with those double inlay dots, and those are gone, I'm going to take another commercial break. But we're not ending the stream until that's done. That section of it. Whew. We are so close. I think I have to do one more round of wet. Okay. I am seeing like the tiniest fraction of a dot, like on the double dots that we're about to get rid of. It is tempting to just take like a belt sander or something to it, you know, but you want to be really careful with the guitar neck. And so it's like, even if it takes time, I'd rather take my time and make sure the radius is in there proper rather than like screw it up and mess up a guitar neck. Whew. You guys will be really surprised by the amount of sawdust under this fretboard. Whew. And I think when I play a commercial next, I'm going to change into a short sleeve shirt because I am sweating in this long sleeve shirt. Probably misjudged because I usually do this work during the nighttime, so it's a little chilly. But yeah. It's taking so long. I might just need to get another set of 200 sandpaper. Can I at least switch back, see how that works? You guys, I can take a brief commercial break. Check it out. Bop. We only have the middle dots left. We will get there very slowly but surely. I'll be right back.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish. I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, welcome back to the Hours of Sanding channel. Jim's called it ASMR. Yeah, so right now what I'm trying to do is just radius the neck until those last dots are done. And we're getting so close. And that's my rule. I was going to inlay the dots, but I think what we'll do is just get the radiusing done and then call it for the stream. Because I am starting to get a little hungry for lunch. Whew. Whew. Man, so the guitar's starting to tilt a little bit. Let me see if I can get that back a little more. Okay, I'm going to try going from this angle now. See if this helps at all. We'll see. I think it's just going to take time. But what's great is I am starting to see the radius like sit, you know, which is pretty cool. Let's try this. Paul said, that doesn't look like Elizabeth. Nice. And then he said, Brother Browning, get it. I love it. Paul is, of course, referencing Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which is what we'll be doing after this, probably late tonight. But this was a project I wanted to work on today, so see how far we can get. Much like comic books, working on guitars is like very deceptive, where you're like, oh, I'll just do this and that'll be it, and then you find out, no, that takes like 10 hours to do. That's usually how it works with this stuff. Creative projects, right? We're like, oh, I'll get that done in no time. ticking there. Hopefully this is fun for you guys. It's kind of fun for me. Let me see. Okay, here we go again. Round two. It's a very meta graphic novel, you know. It's got video components of guitar work. Oh man, we are slowly getting there, you guys. Whew. Jim, what are you working on this weekend? Paul, what are you up to? What page are you on, man? Paul's been working on a Detective Perez comic. That's pretty incredible. You guys should all check out. Check out where we're at. Okay, we switched our 400 count. Starting to think I might need to get more 200 count at Home Depot. We'll see. I was not expecting to run dry of my 200. Thought I had plenty, but I was running low. In 2 seconds. Okay. Whew! I am dripping sweat, guys. Whew. Ooh. I had to redo my sticky tape. The tape got all torn up, so we got to put on new sticky tape. Shouldn't be a big deal. Okay, new double-sided tape. Pop that back on there. And we're just going through. I'm trying to up the grits a little bit and see if that starts smoothing it. Excuse me. All right, guys, I have to get more 200 width sandpaper because we're getting close. I can show you how far we've gotten. It's looking pretty good. especially when I went up the grades, it starts smoothing it out. So it feels really nice on your fingers, but I need more 200 weight so I can take out a little more wood. So I'm going to go get that and get lunch. And then when I come back, we're going to drill and install the fret dots. We'll finish sanding the fretboard and hopefully install the fret dots. So that's what I'd like to do on the next stream. So make sure you guys are subscribed and you hit the bell so that you get notifications when we're about to go live. For now, I'm just going to go get lunch, and then we will come back and we will continue our progress. But it is feeling like, I wish you guys could feel the difference. It's like the smoothest fretboard on the planet now. So I'm very excited about that. All right. I will see you guys on the next live stream as we finish this up.